friends, and welcome back to my channel. I am so happy you're here today because I have some spooky fall book recommendations. These books have like fall vibes when I think about them. I'm pretty sure they take place during fall, I think. Not necessarily Halloween, but they just give off those vibes, that atmosphere, the fall atmosphere, kind of cold, chilly, the leaves are falling, dying, dread, just a lot of dread. That's when I think about fall. Now, I'm so happy fall is finally here, actually, because it started to feel like fall for 2 days, and now it's back to feeling like summer. Yay! But yeah, let me know where you're at. Does it feel like fall? Are you guys excited for fall? Because with fall comes Halloween, right? The best time of year. So yeah, I'm super excited for it. But I'm going to start this recommendation video off with The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. This is a little tiny book. It's super spooky. It's like a Gothic horror book about this lawyer who is going to execute an estate of a woman that died in a very spooky house. And there's some ghost stuff happening in this. This story is so spooky and atmospheric, and it is the perfect fall read. And I'll show you like my cover. It's the movie cover. It's fantastic. You have Daniel Radcliffe on here. I love Susan Hill stories. They're very atmospheric and scary Gothic stories, and I think it's perfect for fall. The next book I'm going to recommend I read recently, and that is Crossroads by Laurel Hightower. This is a little novella. This is about a woman who loses her son, and she goes to visit the little marker where he died, because he died in a car accident, and it's on the side of the road, and she accidentally bleeds on his grave, and then some weird stuff starts to happen. This has so many like fall vibes in it. There is a very vivid scene in this where she's like looking out a window under a street light, like under a tree and stuff. Yeah, lots of tree action in this, I feel like. And I believe it does take place around Halloween, but it does kind of pass time, like I think a year, I want to say a year or 6 months goes by, and it does happen around fall. This story does start out very grief horror, but then turns very supernatural and then just fantastic in the end. And I gave it 5 stars recently, and I highly suggest this for a spooky fall read. The next book I'm going to recommend is The Changeling by Victor Lavelle. I read this one a couple years ago, and it is a modern fairy tale taking place in New York City, and I don't remember if it's during fall, but I remember it being cold in the book, and the main character is looking for his wife after she did something absolutely horrible, and he ends up going into this island like that has a graveyard in it, and it's just very spooky, and it gives me all of the fall vibes when I read it, and I highly suggest picking up The Changeling by Victor Lavelle. As you can see, it like looks like fall on the cover. We got trees here. I don't know, I think of trees when I think of fall because of the leaves. The leaves are changing and falling. And yeah, there's so much dread in this book, and I absolutely love it, and highly recommend. The next book I'm going to recommend is a YA horror book, and that's Horrid by Katrina Lino. This is very atmospheric. This is about a mother and daughter who move to a small town in her grandmother's old house. Lots of spookiness happening. It takes place around Halloween. It could be a Halloween book. If you're looking for Halloweekend Readathon, Halloween vibe prompt, this one fits it. And yeah, this is another kind of fun take on a fairy tale of Rapunzel. And I highly recommend this for a fall read. I mean, look at this cover. The cover is absolutely fantastic. One of the reasons why I bought this book is because of the cover. But yeah, also lots of fall vibes happening here. The next book I'm going to recommend is actually a mystery thriller book with some horror aspects to it, and that is Ronald Malfoy's Come With Me. This book is I don't want to say cozy, but when I was reading it, I was like, you know, this isn't terribly scary. I'm really invested into this mystery aspect of it. This guy is just trying to figure out what his wife was working on before she died suddenly, and he finds receipts for a hotel in another state, and he goes there, and it just keeps going and going and going, and what she was investigating before she died. And this book has a lot of spooks. The title is used many different ways in it, and I highly suggest for fall because it's very cold and a wet book. Is this a wet book? No, no, no. You know, like, it's always raining. And yeah, highly suggest Ronald Malfoy's Come With Me for a fall read. The next book I'm going to recommend, it just gives me fall vibes. The cover of the book has fall colors on it. The movie, I remember it looking very fall-like, and that is Horns by Joe Hill. This is a story about a guy whose love of his life is found brutally murdered in like a tree house, or next to a tree, like that they would hang out in the tree house. Yeah. And he's basically let off because there's not enough evidence to say that he did it, but the whole town and his family truly think he killed her, but he didn't. And he ends up waking up one day from a hangover, and he has horns, and he's trying to tell everybody about these horns, but when they look at them, they forget when they look away, and they tell him the most terrible stuff that they've ever done in their whole life, like the worst thing possible, because it like brings that out of them because of his horns. Yeah, it's a great story. I love the book, I love the movie. Daniel Radcliffe, again, bringing it in the horror movies. But yeah, highly suggest Horns. If you don't want to read the book, watch the movie. I believe it's on Tubi right now, and it definitely has those early fall vibes, like into summer going into fall vibes. The next book I'm going to recommend I actually haven't talked about in a minute on my channel, and that's Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I talked about this a lot 2 years ago when it came out because it's like one of my favorite reads of 2020. This is about a girl, Naomi, who goes to visit her cousin who wrote to her. She just married into this wealthy-ish family, and they're on an estate that is really far away, and yeah, there's some fall vibes happening in this. This is like a gothic horror book with some body horror, and what the reveal is I think very reminiscent of fall. And yeah, highly suggest Mexican Gothic if you haven't read it yet. It is talked about for a reason. It's hyped up for a reason. It's an excellent gothic horror tale, and I highly suggest it. Also, the cover is giving me fall vibes too in this. I haven't looked at this cover in a minute, but it's very gorgeous. And we have some marigolds here, which is a fall flower. So yeah, highly suggest Mexican Gothic. The next book that gives me mega fall vibes is The Good House by Tananarive Due. This is a haunted house / grief horror book. It also gets very big. The story starts out kind of small, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and more wild, and I absolutely love it. I highly suggest if you have not checked this one out. It's actually from like 2001, and it's spectacular. This story is about Angela, who inherits her grandmother's house, and her grandmother was known in this town as a healer, and basically her son, something happens. I don't want to get too into it, but she moves back to Los Angeles and then has to go back to the good house to decide whether or not to sell it with her friend. And that's all I'm going to say there. There's some really creepy imagery in this, and the dread, like I've said this in other books, the dread building in this is exquisitely done. And again, it is a much bigger story than just a haunted house. And those are some of my fall spooky recommendations, but I do have an honorable mention, and I am wearing a shirt. The Salem's Lot shirt by Stephen King. This takes place around Halloween, I believe, in Salem's Lot, which is right next door to Castle Rock in Maine. During fall, we have a small, spooky New England town, and it's a vampire story. Their story is filled with a lot of melodrama in it. It's so great. If you've seen the miniseries, I think that captures all of like the melodramaticness of Salem's Lot with the horrifying aspect of your town being taken over by a vampire. You know, your typical fall story. I highly suggest checking out Salem's Lot if you haven't checked it out yet. Halloween is the perfect time for it. Those are all of my spooky fall book recommendations. Again, all of these can be applied to Halloweekend Readathon. Prompt Halloween vibes or Halloween colors on the cover, I believe, at least for some. For most, because you can make that work for a lot of them. But yeah, let me know what is your favorite spooky fall book, and you guys have a great day. Bye.